Hello, and welcome back to the tavern. This is Gatekeepers. This episode is the Purribus. You might be asking yourself, why Purribus? Well, it is our second omnibus of questions related to tabletop role-playing game questions and topics. Most of the questions, in fact, I believe all of the questions, are going to be coming from just one individual who is in our Discord. And that person is Purr. So thank you for the questions. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already done so, please consider hitting that subscribe button to this channel and the channels that will be linked in the video description below. Also below, you will find the list of questions we'll be trying to answer tonight, and we are going to try to answer all of them. If you enjoy tonight's content, make sure to hit that like button because it helps the channel grow. It lets us know we're doing a great job and providing you with insight or potentially even little nuggets of inspiration to run your own games. If you don't like tonight's content, that's perfectly fine. I'm not bashful about it. Go ahead and hit the dislike button. You won't hurt my feelings. Without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? Hello, my name's Jaide, and this is my Tabletop Tavern. Joining me tonight is Cigar DM Conall. Welcome.
Hey.
Also joining me tonight is going to be Shadow of Shadow and Sun. Welcome, sir.
Howdy, folks. How you guys doing?
And last but not least, MarHawkman. Welcome.
Good evening. Yeah, I have to say, Purr gave us so many questions to think about that we even decided to name the episode after him.
Yeah. So many of these questions actually appeared first on Legion of Myth's Discord, and Legion of Myth, or Max over at Legion of Myth, tagged me to it and like, "Hey, Jaide, you mind fielding some of these questions in Gatekeepers?" At first, I tried to figure out how to make each individual question or sometimes grouping of questions into a topic, but they were unique questions, and they weren't really necessarily fully topic worthy. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that we didn't feel like we could actually make a full episode out of each individual question or groups of questions. So tonight, we're going to try to answer, again, as many as we can. So I'm going to be running this a little differently. Some of our panelists may not be able to answer some of these questions. Some of our panelists may, choose to pass over the question. And this is going to run a little more like a discussion than it is an actual, like I ask a question, everybody gives an answer. So, first question of the night is going to be, upping my game. How do I gain XP as a PC? And what is it you do to challenge yourself as a gamer, an RPer? Are there online resources or books inside or outside of RPGing you enjoy using to this end? So for this first set of questions, I'm going to go to Shadow on this one. Shadow, as a player, how can I up my game in gaining, XP as a player character? How can I challenge myself as a player character?
Right off the bat, practice. Whether you practice what your character would say in front of the mirror, that sort of thing, or whether you play as many games as you possibly can, in as many different games with as many different people, pick up games, different groups, online, whatever. That's the key. Like everything else, when you've put in your 10,000 hours at any one thing, you can call yourself an expert within reason, obviously. You just get out there and get into every game you can, and not just one game, as many different games as you can. If I've played a whole bunch of games, you guys know, of games that I'm not a fan of, but I still put myself into those situations for the practice, for the experience, to hang out with, you mugs as well. And especially if it's like a genre or a game you're unfamiliar with, or even if you downright don't like it, but your buds are in it, make the time, give it a try, go and, put yourself into uncomfortable and new environments. That's how you learn. That's how you adapt. That's how you get better.
Well said. How about you, Mar? Are there any online resources that you would recommend, inside or outside of the role-playing hobby, that could help you as a role player?
Well, one thing that's not used in a lot of TTRPGs that you might not find one easily that's applicable for the TTRPG that you're doing is the life path character creations setup, because it's a system that has you ask a list of questions of yourself about what is my character in this way. Like Star Trek Adventures is like does this, where it's like each stage of it changes the way your character stats end up, but simply going through the process to think about who your character is, even if it's for a game that doesn't actually do life path character creation, helps you define how your character sees the world, and thus it gives you an idea in your mind about what your character would do in a certain situation.
I would tend to agree. Now, I do have one resource that I can recommend. I'm just going to go pull it off my shelf real quick. This is a little workbook that you can, helps you create character backstories. There's a couple hundred pages to this, 250, 260 some odd pages to it. And you kind of pick and choose what you want to use out of it. That's what I would recommend. I've used it a couple times. Other than that, reading, lots of reading. Can
you put that in Discord later? I've never seen.
Yeah, I'll make sure to add this one to Discord. Conall, this is going to be the second question. How do I improve as a game master? How do I challenge myself as a game master? So, to you, how do you improve? What do you do to improve?
Read. Unless it's a set in stone, here's my ticket, let's get on the Disney railroad track to off to kill the dragon or whatever, I read. Especially if it's a homebrew, I'd be amazed how many games out there might be based on literature that you might never have read of. For example, if you're wanting to do a world building multiple kingdom sets, Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin took his theory from the War of the Roses and ran with it. Now, I'm not saying you should, become a historian. I don't see why you shouldn't become a historian, but that's besides the point. Reading is the answer to most things. If you don't know it, read about it. If you do know about it, read more about it. And in my opinion, that's how a DM could up his game when it comes to character development, to the world he's building, is read. Artists steal from each other, but great artists steal and profit off of it, or various learn from it.
I'd like to add that everything I just said for the previous answer also applies to being a Dungeon Master. Dungeon Master games you hate, Dungeon Master games you don't know, just Dungeon Master until you can't Dungeon Master anymore.
I think the whole mirror thing is creepy, but that's just me. You never know what's looking on the other back. You never know what's looking on the other side.
You'd be amazed how many actors do that, how many con men do that, how many.
No, I know. I'm just saying. The problem with mirrors is you don't know what's looking back at you.
Just you. There's nothing else.
No, there's always something else.
I'm actually posting that book to Discord right now. All right. It is now in Discord in the general and miscellaneous.
It looks like a Purr. Did you find that book at not just for fun? Barnes and Noble.
I can't actually remember where I saw this. I know I mentioned something about it to my wife because I'd seen it somewhere, and then I ended up picking up a copy. So.
Yes, that's what we need to get. We need a bunch of us need to get together and write a how-to dummy book for DMing. The self-help book you really don't need.
So Mar, this is a question that you wanted to answer directly, and that is, how do I get my player characters to be more of a team? So how do you do that?
Well, I mean, one thing that's very simple is that you when you have games that have like skill check things, making skill checks always be one character does this skill check, one character does that skill check. Like, here's the thief who picks locks, etc., 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 is not necessarily a good way to encourage team concepts. And setting it up so that players can actually work together on objectives like that very much helps with encouraging them to actually work together as a team when solving problems.
Okay. And how do you show them the benefits of teamwork at your table?
Well, one of them is as simple as like, oh, okay, this is a skill check of 25. I mean, you don't necessarily tell them that. You tell them that the door looks like it's too heavy for one person to lift it on their own, or something like that. And then, you have 2 or 3 characters work together on it. And then that it does the skill checks differently, but it's like from an in-universe perspective, though, it's not just each person doing their own thing.
Okay.
Can I take a bite from the apple?
Yeah, sure.
Killing one of them or kidnapping one of them. That's how I do teamwork building in my campaigns. Skills work, though. I do have to agree with Mark. Let's say the skill is, whatever it is, and one of the people's like, can I give him an assist? Can I help him with this? Then you don't want to bind both roles, but the person can get a +5, a +2, to whatever rolls, depending on how the other person's deciding to help. If they have the skills to help, if I have no thumbs, I cannot swing a sword, or use a hammer. Therefore, I'm not going to help Timmy build something with a hammer. But if it's something in my character's wheelhouse and he is not the main roller, then having him help the other guy with a +2 or a +5 or whatever the DM sees fit, in my opinion, helps teamwork amongst those players. But I will always fall back to the Avengers theory. You kill somebody that they all like, they all gathered up to take out the big bad.
Like the cleric.
The cleric, a favored NPC. I've done that one a couple times.
You kill the cleric and they have no choice.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that's interesting with this, though, is that have you ever played the 2D20 system by Modiphius that's used for Star Trek Adventures?
No.
Well, in that system, they actually have a game mechanic that's explicitly designed to force teamwork. Because
force teamwork, though.
Let me explain. Okay. When you do skill checks in that, you need a certain number of successes. And that's part of the reason why it's the 2D20 system, is that each character, when they are rolling for an attempt, normally rolls 2 D20s so that they can get up to 2 successes when they do their roll. Well, a skill check might require more than 2 successes to actually work, which means you need to have more than one character do rolls.
Okay, that I can see that where that comes in handy at. Yeah. As far as like getting my players to work together as a team, I've used the favored NPC in peril tactic a lot. It works. It takes a while to set up, but it does work really well. And as far as how do I show them the benefits of working together as a team? Greater rewards. Not just greater rewards, but more lasting rewards. I like to reward behavior or things that I enjoy at the table, and my players know it. So when my players are doing things that I think are really great and really great for team building, character building, and story driving, I reward them for it. If they're going to work together to form new tactics on the battlefield, and change the way the game plays right then and there, like against their enemies, I'm going to reward them for it. I'm going to give them bonuses because they're actually forming a cohesive team that's capable of taking on greater challenges. If they're working together to work over like a mob boss or something, and really trying to, throw the mob boss off, or whoever they're working against, and they're working together as a team to confuse and subvert the NPC that they're working against. I'm going to start probably throwing them bones and then throwing them bonuses. Especially if they're working on getting the henchman to turn on the boss, in some cases they may actually succeed at that if they come at it as a team. So let me get caught up with chat real quick. Let's see here. Hey, Shadow's saying, Maflady, I'm getting back into comics lately, and the Golden Age comics, especially classic EC comics. Or DC comics, you mean?
No, EC, like Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Way back.
Welcome back, Russ. Normally being the rogue myself, if the cleric bites it, I gotta get convincing the paladin it wasn't my fault. Yeah, that's fair. Let's see here. I like to add music as well, mostly when I DM GM for world building or lore. I also will add music occasionally to my, but it's so low, it's like whisper quiet, and it's just a background noise to fill the space when there's no talking. I don't like overly loud things. Like if my players are talking so loud that they can't hear the background music, that's perfectly fine. That means they're actually actively engaged in the game. But to fill dead space while I'm taking notes or coming up with the next thing that I have to come up with or improvise, it kind of fills the space, and I can actually change the ambience of it based on what's happening around them. Let's see here. Oh, and let's see here. Purr has already written back in Discord. Oh yeah. Okay. He will check it out on the replay. That's perfectly fine. Real life always takes precedence. So, on to question number 4. How do you show new role players the values of good interactive story? Shadow, I'm going to start with you on this one. Can you give me examples of when someone joins your table, brand new to role playing, what they can do and the value of interacting with the story and NPCs around them?
That's a toughie. I haven't had a new player. I'm getting ready to start a new campaign with some new players next year, but I literally haven't played with a newbie. Actually, no. You know what? I did. I ran a game for some of Jackie's friends. Jackie's my son. And we had this one kid who didn't even know what we were doing. I mean, what a role-playing game was. And he took to it like a duck to water. And I let him know, because he was amazing. He got into his character, and he was just like, I wish everybody had a youngster like this to be in their story. And I let him know how good he was. He's really good at a lot of other things. He's he's a friend of Jackie, so clearly he's going to be one of the special kids. Sorry for bragging, but if you've met Jackie, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you let them know that they're doing a good job. Encourage them. You can maybe ham it up a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're trying to get folks to enjoy the thing that we're talking about. So just let them know that they're doing a good job, and if they're not, let them know that they will. It might take some time, but there's no need to be embarrassed. This kid had the accent, the just total crazy, just totally into it, gonzo, instant. I got it. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to be this character, and just encourage them.
Okay. So what about you, Mar? How do you show new role players the values of good interactive story, of actually participating?
It's very, very simple. You look at it from the choose your own adventure perspective. You are dictating the direction of the story. Obviously not solely choosing everything, but you are guiding it. It's like, are you going to go to the left of the tree or the right of the tree? That sort of thing. It's like, obviously you're still going to be on the other side of the tree when you're done, but it's like,
are you?
Well, just an example. Well. It's like that's the sort of thing. It's like, here's the scenario. What would you do in this scenario? Because I have often had discussions of movies. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense that he did that in that scene. It would make more sense for him to do this in that scene instead. Well, you playing a TTRPG, you get to make the choice that you would make.
Okay. What about you, Conall? How do you show because I know you run a lot of shop games. So how do you show new role players or new gamers the value of actually interacting with a story?
By giving them praise, because they're not going to get XP. They don't, new players. There's a lot of things that older players or not even fairly new players take for granted that new players don't understand, don't get the value of XP, the gold, whatever, the new shiny tool. If you got a kid or if you got somebody at your table that comes to play that character and has the concept in his head and is able to run with it, he doesn't always have to. He or she, depending the variation, doesn't always have to do the voices or everything else that you get seasoned or players do. Using your wife, for example, when she was playing that one character for Pathfinder, I know she's a sweet woman. I have no doubt in my mind that she wouldn't harm and fly. But that character she played terrified me. Absolutely terrified me and my character. Not just my character. There was a little bit of me in there. And with that being said, if you can get a player like that who just comes to the table and says, no, don't make more of what he or she is, but plays the character and plays the character off the bat, you give them praise. You tell them that they're doing a good job, that you hope to see them again. You don't play favorites. Don't ever play favorites at your table because they'll just kill your table. But if you get, if you got a young rock star out there just jamming away from the get-go, after game, or when you're taking a 5-minute break or whatever, bio break, hey, you're doing a really good job. Is there anything you need to know? Is there anything I can help you with? Keep up the good work. Simple praise goes a long way because I don't believe that every kid should go home with a trophy. I'm from the generation before that. But I believe if a kid does well and even falls on his face but does well, he should not get hassled. He should get some praise. And if you want good RPing people at your table and they're new, you have to develop some kind of area for them that they feel safe to do so. Because
Okay.
if they just feel like it's a video game, I push my quarter in arcade style, come and go. Then you're going to get your hack and slashers, your murdering hobo. But if you get somebody who actually wants to be Shakespeare, but with a D20, give him praise. Let him or her go.
Okay. I also would second that. When my players sit down at the table, not all of them are the hack and slash players. Not all of them are the murder hobos. Some of them are actually there for the developing story and working their way through the world, learning about the world, learning about how it works and what they themselves can do in changing that world. And I actually value role play more than I do battle. And as a matter of fact, I will offer more experience for role play encounters than I will for battle encounters. Battle encounters, the XP is split among all players equally. So whatever the monster, XP rating is, it gets divided out. But role play experience gets awarded to everybody at the same rate. So if a XP or if a role play encounter is worth 2,000 XP, everybody gets 2,000 XP. It doesn't get divided out. So I very much value actual role play and interaction with the world and what is going on in the world far more than I value combats. As a matter of fact, if a group of players can figure out how to avoid an actual avoidable combat, I will give them full marks for it. And they'll probably gain some allies along the way, which can be far more valuable than even just XP.
I actually have an example. Never mind. Move on. I got to take this phone call.
The rewarding of XP, like you just said, Jade, is actually how it was originally done. If you avoid the monster, you got the XP. And which was fun because you avoid the monster, you get the XP. But then, a week or 3 days later, they bump into the same critter, and this time there is no avoidance. So they can get double.
I've actually had several. Yeah, I've actually had several of my players turn foes into allies through this model, and it gives them the opportunity to not just build rapport with those who were only against them because they were getting paid for it or because it was convenient, but they get people on their side that can take care of their home base, their manse or whatever it might be. This happened a lot in was it the Pathfinder game I ran. It was Wrath of the Righteous. Like there were enemies there that they should have just outrightly destroyed. And as a matter of fact, the module has them basically outright destroying all of these NPCs. And I'm like, this NPC is only there because of X reason. If they can solve the X reason for that NPC, there's no reason for that NPC to want to fight them anymore. And if it's an honorable NPC, like some of them were, they might even offer to join them because they bested them in battle. And that's what my party did. They did a lot of, hey, we realize you're on the down and out. You want to join us? Instead of actually offering a killing blow, they offered a hand up and be like, we will help you if you can help us, which I rewarded them greatly for that kind of play.
It's funny because a lot of GMs I know or have met don't like that. They don't want to have to, don't want the player party, growing exponentially by doing things like that.
Well, so the party itself, even though they gained some NPC allies, the party itself didn't grow. They left a lot of those NPC allies back at home base to make sure the home base was safe, because the home base was actually a city they were trying to grow, and it was a community and kind of a miniature nation that they wanted to start growing. So they had to leave powerful NPCs behind to run things while they went out and dealt with the rest of the wider world.
I like that, Matt.
Reward. Yep. We used reward monster XP, strategy, intelligence XP, roleplay XP, and then the silent paper vote for MVP of the session. Yeah.
I've never heard of that before. I love it, though.
Yeah, the after action or the tribunal. That's a good time to offer any extra bonuses out to players who really shined. And if, especially with the MVP model, if everyone's like, hey, yeah, that player did a really great job, it also is going to support and reinforce more teamwork and cohesiveness among the players.
If not competition.
Yeah, sometimes competition, sometimes rivalry. And there's nothing wrong with rivalry as long as you don't take it too far. So
Kind of a fan of the competition as well.
Yeah. All right. So this next question is, how do you get experienced role players to try something new outside of their comfort zone? Let's see here. I'm going to go with MarHawkman on this one. So,
Well,
Mar,
I mean,
yeah.
The simplest thing here is just, what situation is this person most familiar with being? Okay, put them in a different situation. I mean, one of the most extreme examples of this, though, is having people use randomly generated characters, because to a lot of people, they find themselves making very samey characters. It's like, this is what I like to play. This is the kind of character I enjoy playing. And thus, every time they build a character, there are certain commonalities they will have with previous characters they've made. But if you give them a pre-made character and it's like, okay, you're playing this now, that's different.
Okay. What about you, Shadow? How do you get experienced role players to try something new or completely outside of their comfort zone?
When you asked Mar, I was thinking the way I heard it was like trying a new game. Is that what you meant, or?
Either a new game or a character they don't normally play. So, for example, I played and I have played a lot, and I mean a lot, of rogues or wizards. I don't typically play your frontline fighter. I don't typically play your shiny paladin types. I'm more into the shadows. I'm more into shadow magic, or being a wizard character who can blast things from half a mile away, because I prefer long ranged and firing for effect. Because if I can put more bullets downfield than the enemy, I win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I don't really like trying to urge people to play something they're not comfortable with. I find that in time, everybody will go through that phase of the 4 food groups of what to play. I find it easier to maybe get them into a new game, because we discovered, DM James and I and a few others, that the more enthusiasm a GM has for a game, the more the players are going to enjoy it. There's some sort of quality that goes into that. If you pick up a new shiny new game and you really sell it, and when game time comes, you're pumped and you're excited to play this new game, that transfers to the players and they get into it. And if for some reason they don't, there's always next game night, you can switch it up. But just showing enthusiasm.
Well, the example I gave earlier is like, one specific implementation of that was having a character get cursed during a campaign, and that curse changed their character class. I mean, is it something that necessarily, needed to happen? No, but it did make for a fun story. And obviously it was temporary. So the person who was playing that character eventually got uncursed and went back to normal.
Yeah, that's one of those things, kind of like the old girdle of femininity, masculinity. I've seen people tear their character up and like, I'm not doing this, or getting caught prisoner. I'd rather die, getting their stuff taken away. They don't.
I know
a lot of babies out there that will show their colors if you push them a little too hard. I've seen it more times than I can count. I'd rather not push. I'd rather use the carrot as opposed to the stick.
Mm-hmm. Well, but the part of what made this one interesting, though, is obviously that the person who did this isn't someone who is willing to flip the table because they didn't get what they wanted. So the GM knew that, so he knew that it would be fine. It's just she would do different things than usual with her character. And I mean, what it was is it was a tiefling warlock getting turned into a barbarian.
Oh, okay.
So a ranged magic user getting turned into someone who cuts people's heads off with an axe.
Actually, Russell Myers offers for experienced players, getting them used to game mechanics that they don't normally use is often a good way to bring a new layer to the game. I would agree, especially because Russ Myers is actually playing at a table that I'm also playing at on Saturdays, and he is actually, as he set up here, playing a character who is a counter spell mage. Takes away the magic of the enemy. And it is a seldom used tactic at the tables I've been at. I don't see a lot of characters going around saying, I'm going to hold my action or ready my action to counter spell the mage, basically giving up their turn to be able to affect the enemy directly, or like actual combat magic directly. They're willing to forego that in the hopes of being able to take away the enemy's ability to act on us as a party. It is a tactic that, again, I just don't see much of, and he's doing it really well. But this kind of happened to me back 20 years ago. How do you? Well, I wasn't quite as experienced then as I am now. Obviously, because 20 years have passed. But I'd already been playing the game for 3.5 for about 5 years. So I kind of knew. Actually, it wasn't 3.5. I think it was like 3.0. The beginnings of 3.0. So I'd already been playing for 5 years. And I was a murder hobo. I was the min-maxing murder hobo that a lot of people don't care for. And I don't even, I'll admit to my faults. I was wrong. I played wrong. I played bad fun, or however Max puts it. But the game master was kind of fed up with my nonsense and hit me with a curse, and it changed entirely the way I played the game, the way I approached the game. He gave me I've said it, I've talked about it multiple times. The character who got the scar across his face, who had a wound that would not close, and it ruined the sight in his left eye. So anything attacking him on the left had greater chances of hitting him. He couldn't defend as well against it, and it completely changed the way I looked at the game and played the game. And instead of getting upset and not showing up to game the next couple times, I was like, you know what, I'm going to prove to him that I can still make this character work. And it, like I said, it completely changed the way I play. As far as getting my players to try something else or try something new outside of their normal comfort zone, I see that's the problem. I don't think I've had too many players that have settled into a specific role that they like to play. There have been a few, but generally speaking, they are all well versed enough to be able to take on pretty much any role. The only role I would say I've seen the least love for is the cleric, as the healer. So trying something outside of someone's experience. I don't know. Maybe go at it as as the HMO type cleric. How much are you going to pay me for it? Oh, you got yourself injured. Well, I'm willing to bet you're going to learn not to do that. This is going to run you. What do you mean it's going to run you? Well, it's going to cost you 1,000 gold to get healed. What?
Well, to be honest, though, that actually is something that has come up in games. Is someone in your party has some special injury that they can't just have bed rest to make better, so they have to go to a chapel, and the chapel's like, yes, we could heal you if you, etc., etc., etc.
And Six Nations says, I don't normally do recorded live play. I'm an in-person gamer myself, but here I am in an experimental game on YouTube ran by a guy I trust and respect. Being comfortable with your table helps a lot. Yeah, it absolutely does. And this is another really great one. Max says one-shot games are a good way, like you said, with the random characters. Yeah, have people show up, try something new, even like randomly rolled characters. You roll a die, and that determines like what your character is going to be. And it's just a one-shot. Those characters will likely never see the light of day again after you're done.
One of the best supplements I've seen is for Hyperborea. It's called Waifs of the Boreas. It's this super streamlined method of quickly creating characters where if you want to, you can just go through and do like a menu choice, or you can just roll dice and quickly make a character that's randomized. And so you could actually use that, on the fly to, it's like, this person wants to join the game, but they don't have a character. Here, we'll just roll a few dice and then write down the results.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely works. Having different rolled up characters like that. And going back to basic addition, like rolling 3d6, those are your stats in order. The work with what you roll. Like even that, changes the way players look at what they have available to them.
That's one of the other things with the Waifs of the Boreas is that because it doesn't actually use the traditional method of stat generation, it just gives you like a table lookup thing where you roll a dice to see which of the things in the table that you use. So you're never going to end up with stats that are truly bad.
Yeah. And Mac, I salute you, sir. You playing the cleric. It's definitely not a role I take on myself. I'm not typically the healer type cleric. Typically the cleric who arrives too late to save people, so I raise them instead. Let's see here. What are some let's see here. What are some of the behaviors you cannot stand at your table? And what would make you walk away? Shadow, I'm going to start with you on this one. What are some of the behaviors you cannot stand at your table?
You, as a DM or as a player? I'm assuming you mean as a DM.
Either.
Okay. Cheating. That's enough to like end a friendship. Period. I catch you cheating, you're done. Favoritism by DMs, freaking, I'm out. Especially if it's a male-female thing, I'm out. You're doing that, do that on your own time. Don't use me, as your wingman. Just don't do that. The rules lawyering, if you can do it, fudge dice. That's called cheating. If you can, point out that, after the fact, not trying to use rules lawyering to sway the results, but after the fact, you can show me line and verse where I was wrong. Awesome. I'll take it into account, or I'll let you know that, hey, usually if it's something that I change or make a ruling on, I try, but it's not always going to happen, to let people know ahead of time. It's like, well, I don't use this rule or that rule, it's that way, if you're not okay with it, then you can, not show up. And the other thing is one-upsmanship in sort of any way that just interferes with the game. I don't mind the Legolas Gimli sort of thing, if it's done, a certain way. But you guys all have been there when someone is, just, trying to, hog the spotlight, or, I can do it better than you can do it. You should have done it this way, sort of thing. Do that after the game. You're wasting everybody's time with that, and none of us get to game as much as we'd like anymore. So don't be wasting my time and everybody else's at the table.
And what would make you walk away from a game?
Almost all the things I just met, except for the rules lawyering thing. I get it. Heat of the moment, you're going to want to, get your way. I get it. Okay. But sometimes, the GM has other things going on that you don't know about. I'm not going to tell you that the monster's got a ring of +3, saving throws kind of thing, or some magic item I just created, but I wrote it down, but I'm not going to show it to you until it's in your possession. Things like that. But the cheating, the favoritism, or the belittling, at the table, you guys are a team, work together as a team, or die together alone. But yeah, those things would get me to leave a table. Maybe not in the middle of the game, but I definitely probably wouldn't be coming back.
What about you, Mar? And then before the chat, starts, asking why I haven't been getting to Conall. Connell's actually on a phone call, and he's dealing with personal issues. So I'm leaving him in the chat in the table, but he hasn't responded back to me yet. So I will get back to him on some of these.
I'm sure he'll let us know as soon as he gets back. Anyway, so for me, the number one thing that has irritated me the most over the years is people who are disrupting the game with out of game nonsense. One of them was my nephew deciding he wanted to build towers out of dice and then have the towers fall over and scatter the dice all over the table we're playing at. As one of many examples of weird nonsense he did, because he actually wasn't paying attention to the game. He was just goofing off instead of playing the game. And
how old is he?
I don't remember exactly. 10 or somewhere around there. It's not a small child, someone who's like old enough to, know better, but also young enough to be immature at best.
Well, I mean,
that's
and
kind of young.
But
10 years old is like the bare minimum before I won't let anyone who's younger than 10 actually enter my table. So
I think he's
family
older
or
than
not.
10. I don't remember exactly how old he is, but at least
they have short attention spans, unfortunately.
Well, but what I was getting at, that was just one example, though. It's like that's not the only person I've had issues with like that in the past, and it's just one of those things. It's like you're not playing the game, and you're making it hard for other people to play the game, and that's just like, why are you even here? But I mean, that's actually one of those things where player side, GM side, I mean, it's equally annoying both ways. And I mean, I've even had that come up in online games, because like I remember one online game I was in, we had one person who would regularly find ways to play sound clips to, annoy people with weird noise stuff during the game. And it's just like, okay, are you done yet? I mean,
okay.
As far as like actually like walking away from the table, though, if it gets to the point where you just can't play the game, yeah. It's like with my nephew, it's like we tell them, okay, stop doing that. You're interrupting people. And he at least makes some half-hearted effort to not interrupt people. So, that's okay-ish. The rules lawyering thing that Shadow mentions, like, rules questions exist. Like, there's a lot of times where someone will question rulings because like they genuinely thought it should work a different way. So, having someone raise questions about what is the right way to do something, that's a given. It's inevitable that that's going to happen. However,
I mean, even I'm guilty of rules lawyering occasionally.
Well, there's a difference between
really
rules lawyering and asking questions about the rules, though. That's what I was getting at with this, though, is that, like, actually, like, where I draw the line with this is that when you try to con the DM into doing it your way just because it's your way and you just don't want to do it the DM's way.
Now, if it's a issue where it's a rules interpretation, the game master has final say on it. The player might say, "Hey, when I was reading this rule, this is the way I interpreted it. Is this not the right interpretation of this ruling?" They can have a conversation about it, but that conversation should not happen during play. That conversation happens after play at like a bar or something, and then when the player goes and buys the GM a drink. Bribe the GM, go up a level. No, as far as me, man, there are a few things that I don't care for at my table. One of them is cheating dice. The dice giveth, the dice taketh away. If your dice aren't rolling hot that night, I'm sorry, you're just out of luck that night. If your dice are rolling hot, awesome, bring it on, bring the pain. I've got quite literally an unlimited supply of NPCs and monsters I can throw. I don't really care. I used to, now I don't. And that was a very hard learned lesson about me as the game master I wanted to be versus the game master I was. I put far too much emphasis, and this is something also that is a behavior I should not have stood for, and it was my behavior. I was more interested in the story I was telling than I was in the story my players wanted to explore. And that is something no player should have to put up with. You have your railroading game masters. Sometimes the story is on rails. Sometimes there is moments where the game goes a direction that the players didn't necessarily think it was going to go. And it was, the game master had put all of his chips in this direction, and the players missed it entirely. They just missed all of the subtext. So things start happening because the players ignored certain effects. That's fine. If the players missed it, but they had every opportunity to act on it, awesome. Use it, do it, run with it. But if the players have done quite literally everything they can to avoid an outcome, and the game master's like, well, this is the outcome, like it was already decided before you got to play, that's railroading. And that was a hard learned lesson for me as a game master, because that's the game master I was at one point in time. I was more interested in my story, my world, than what my players were wanting to do. So that is a behavior that I don't want to exhibit, and I don't want to see exhibited at tables I play at. And one of the things that'll make me walk away from a game is when I'm told, oh yeah, you've heard rumors of there being X thing in X place, but your own country will hunt you down and murder you if you attempt to do anything that's the theory or study of X thing that is proprietary to that country or that place. At which point I'm like, well, if nobody is researching the stuff that our potential enemies could be using against us, Why is that so forbidden? Why is that taboo? Telling players directly, oh no, you can't do that. Because the in-game world would just deny you for it.
Okay,
Like,
so
why?
well, I have a quick question with this.
Sure.
Is this the game master seeding a plot point and then telling the players that they're not allowed to play with it?
I think Conall wants to chime in on that one.
It is part of the rule that the said DM has made that the only people that have had the technology or have a mining source for some of the ingredients just happens to be this race. For whatever reason, he has decided to keep it to that race alone. Is very much, I agree with him. I agree with you, Jay, to a certain degree. I also understand the concept of DM prerogative. I'm not saying
Sure.
I'm not saying you're right. Not saying he's wrong. But yeah, if you offer, so yeah, you could be this race, which will give you access to said thing. But if you sell it to a neighboring whoever, you will be hunted down as the dog that you are. Is kind of heavy-handed, in my opinion. I will agree with you with that. But to play devil's advocate, there are in earlier editions of games where I want to use this weapon. Why can't I use this weapon? Because it is race specific. Iron Kingdoms with their big ass sword. Why can't I use it? Well, you're not in this. Why does that matter? Well, it does. So I mean, I know that's a loose argument for that.
Sure.
But it's
no, but it is an argument. But no, there are other aspects that will make me walk away from a game as well. If I'm offered a very weak explanation about something that I think is critical to the game, I'm probably not going to play in that game. If I'm just offered this is just the way it is, the way it's always going to be, and no amount of anyone can do anything to change it. Well, if nobody can, no matter what anybody does, can change something that is actually changeable. Like, I'm not asking to change the rules of the universe. No, I'm asking simple technological things. I'm asking around the same time period of things that would be capable, and the thought processes were already in play. Like, why can't we just make that next logical leap with just one character experimenting things? If you're gonna stymie every idea I have during character creation and game concept, I'm gonna walk away. That's just, there's no point to me trying if I'm just going to get stymied at every turn. And I'm not talking about just that game master that you're talking about, Conall. I'm talking about in general. Because I've had this happen at other tables as well. As every time I came up with a concept, I was stymied from the beginning. I don't think that works for this game. Okay, can you tell me what does work for your game? And they would never tell me what works for their game. I'm like, well, then I'm not going to play in your game. I'm sorry. It's just like, if you're going to stymie me for coming up with a concept that you don't like or you think is broken or too powerful, give me something to go with. Give me more information about what limitations there are in the world. If you're not going to give me that, I'm going to come up with another concept. And if you stymie me again, I'm going to walk away.
Can I respond to Russ really quick, please?
Sure. Which question?
Conall, that is why there are feats, exotic weapons, proficiency. So people, that one.
That one. Yeah, got it.
That is very much true in certain campaign and certain systems. In the system that he is running, there are feats, but that's not one of them.
So I guess this is one of those where it's not so much that it's impossible from an in-universe perspective, but that he's telling you no.
He has storyline reasons why he's saying no, which I don't exactly agree with. But every DM out there runs his or her game the way they see fit, for better or worse, I guess.
And
So
again, it wasn't just that game master. There were other game masters also in that year of me trying to discover new games, new RPGs to play. There were other game masters that also stymied every time I had come up with a concept that would work in the game system. You know, it completely worked within the game system of rules, but the game master just was not having it, so they stymied 2 efforts and then I walked away. That's just kind of my thing. You know, stymie me twice, you know, on a concept that I think is really unique for the game and game world. I'm probably not going to stick around.
What logic were they using, or were they just not even telling you the logic for why?
I wasn't getting clear answers. That was problem number 1. I wasn't getting clear answers. But I think
it's like
spent a little too long on this question.
Yeah, okay.
This is only number 7 out of 21 questions. So we're a third of the way through the night and we're already an hour in. So let me get to the next one. I didn't mean to you know.
I think we were on that one for a full 10 minutes at least.
Railroading is an argument, no matter, you know, it's a conversation. Yeah. Anyways, moving on.
Did you see my video last week on that, Jaide?
Railroading?
No, unfortunately. So I've been working a lot of hours. Last week it was my first week to actually decompress and not do anything internet related, and that's what I did. I stayed away from everything internet related. I only worked my 24 hours in the week, and I sat back and enjoyed time with my wife.
Oh. Good for you. I'll send you a link later, because you almost said the literal title of the video, so I thought maybe you had actually seen it.
No, I have not had a chance to see it yet. There's a lot of videos out there I need to go watch, and
none of mine.
No worries.
None of mine. Don't worry about it.
Well, I mean, I don't watch movie reviews. So, all right. So let's get into to question number 8, and this is not to get political here, but what are signs of extremism of any kind at role-playing table, and what do you do about it, or do you just let it go and hope for the best? So, let's see here. Who might deal with the most extremism here? I would think probably the public game table might be one of the places where it happens the most often. How do you feel about this, Conall? Can you speak on this topic at all? This question?
Yeah, the game shop as a whole has a no religion, we don't talk about religion, we don't talk about money, and we don't talk about politics. The 3 things you should never talk about in polite society. But every so often, it does come up. And if it's before game or after game, I really don't say anything, because we're about ready to get going. But if it's a middle game, I do the strike systems. I don't like it because it makes me feel like I'm, babysitting a bunch of kids when most of them are grown-ass adults. But it's like, did you hear what he did? Did you hear what she did? All right, guys, we're here to game. So I try to keep it relaxed. If something major happens in the world, politic-wise, where there's just no escaping it whatsoever, I will just kind of not fold. I'm like, all right, you guys have had your 20 minutes, back to game.
That is kind of like what I was talking about earlier with the whole disrupting the gaming session, except that it's disrupting it by having a non-gaming related conversation instead of playing the game.
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings on that. During the game, yeah. Right before the game, but at the same table, and right after the game at the same table, because if my politics don't jive, we're probably never going to talk again. You know what I mean? I'm very, I need to know who I'm associating with. And if I find out, you're a certain way, it's over. Sorry. It's eventually going to come up, and I'd rather get it out of the way. Doesn't mean we hate each other, but I've got things I have to watch out for in life, and if you're one of those people that I have to watch out for, then I'm sure you could do the math.
I personally hate echo chambers.
Yeah, when it comes to some things, yes, but when it comes to the real world and survival, yeah, no, I want to be around my own people.
I get that. I mean, playing. Well, the difference is when was the last time you ran in a shop?
It was a long time ago, and we did not have those issues. We would talk about whatever, but probably not during the game. During the game.
Yeah, during the game is just a no bueno. It's just no.
Hey, I mean, especially if you're on the clock, you're getting paid. Let's do the thing.
Right.
But after, to me, it's no different than talking about, the game, like the football game or something like that. That's what some people, that's their other hobby. And, if your other hobby is one of my other hobbies, that's a good thing.
So, what are signs of extremism? As far as, I mean, if we're talking strictly just role playing, I don't typically tolerate a lot of obscene behavior, especially not at a public table. If it's a public table, I'm gonna, tell the player, mind your P's and Q's, because we are in a public space. And if you are using language or content that is not conducive to the game shop owner's space, I'm probably going to tell you to leave, because it's not my rules. I don't own the game space. The owner of the store owns the game space. And if they don't like what you're doing, they don't like what you're spreading, I have to kick you out, because that's their rule. Now, at my home, I'm going to vet my players. My players are likely going to meet in a public space, if it's new players, for at least 6 months to a year before I even invite them to my home. I won't even give out my address to them until I know them well enough that I am comfortable with inviting them to my home. So a lot of that nonsense gets stopped by that filtering process. So vet your players.
Wolverines.
I mean, extremism. I mean, religion.
No.
I absolutely will not allow any talk about any different religions at my table. I don't care if I have a table full of Christians, because even a table full of Christians doesn't mean they're all the same Christians. And I don't want that nonsense. I'm not saying the religion's nonsense. I'm just saying I don't want the nonsense. What?
Nice save.
The religion is nonsense. I'll go there too. I don't want to deal with that at my table. Like I said before, if there is a God in my campaign that somebody at the table worships, that God is now gone. It is no longer part of my world. Just because I'm not going to tell one person who worships Thor and a guy who wants to pray to Thor in a campaign that I'm not going to allow one of them to say that the other one's doing it wrong. I'm not going to play that game, and it's just a headache. So dial that back to conversations I've had earlier with other people on different channels. Why won't I allow the Christian God in my campaign? For that exact same reason. There's over 30,000 different variations of the Christian belief out there, and not one of us worships the same way. One of my favorite people is DM James, and me and him argue if there should be a pope or not.
Yeah.
So what are you going to, how are you going to handle that? Outside of, I don't see racism being really much of a thing anymore. I mean, in game, you dirty elf, you stupid dwarf, whatever. But it's not the same. It's I don't care what WotC says. It's not the same. My orcs do not represent a culture. They're all evil. They look like human pigs. That's how I do it. And so that's kind of me in a nutshell for whatever that's worth.
Sure. In Legion of Myth, where most of these questions came from, and actually I think some of the stuff spawned from Legion of Myth's, I think RP Gate or RPG Gate, where he talks about escapism, not representation. I can't remember the full quote, but we're here to not live as us. We're here to become other beings in an entirely world not our own. We're here to explore the concepts within the mind, not try to be ourselves in a game. Now, some people might argue against that. Some people are like, well, yeah, I'm just playing me in a game. Well, why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to become something that you're not? Explore the possibilities that are out there. Don't limit yourself to just you. Go off and explore. That's the whole concept of some of these fantasy role-playing games, is to be able to do and have characters that are not you, that are completely different from you.
That kind of goes to that thing I said earlier about going outside your comfort zone. Is that a lot of people, the characters that are in some way like them is just what they're comfortable with.
Hey, is my camera frozen up, guys?
Yes.
Okay, a lot of other things are frozen up too.
Oh, there he goes.
His audio is frozen issues. Now.
Well, he's just plain gone.
I was going to say something, but I'll be nice now. I'll take that shot at him when he comes back.
Anyway. We'll get him back in when he comes back in. So number 9. Welcome back, Shadow. What are some of the qualities of the best role players you have shared a table with? So Mar, I'm going to start with you on this one. I know you haven't said much in the past 10 minutes or so. So what are some of the best qualities of players or role players that you have shared a table with?
Well, one of the things that I've seen that some people have issues with, and that good role players, part of what makes my definition of it, are people who don't think from an in-character perspective. I mean, it's one of those things that's just it feels strange as a complaint, is that people are basically just playing themselves, which again goes back to that other thing I said earlier about comfort zones, because a lot of the people who are like this just want to be themselves, but in a fantasy setting. So they just do what they would do in real life and don't think about what their character would do in the fictional setting, even though what they would personally do in real life doesn't necessarily make sense in a fictional setting.
Mar, you gotta understand though that no matter what you do, there's always going to be a percentage of you in your character, and you can't dictate how much that's going to be without risking losing the player entirely. What's in their head, that I don't care. If they're playing themselves, don't care, as long as they're playing themselves well.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, though, is that simply, even if the character's personality is based on the player who's playing the character, you need to guide the character's actions by taking into account the in-game world and not just whatever you feel like you want to do. And that's one of the things I feel is a good one of the best qualities, is people who actually just do everything. It's okay, character has this, and this that they know how to do, so I'm going to do that. And doesn't that, yes, it's fundamentally limiting, but that's part of having a role in the story.
Yeah, you're never going to get completely into someone's head canon. They're gonna, they're gonna think and feel the way they want. You can try real hard, but I find that at the end of the day, I know a lot of players out there. They play the same character every game, no matter what game they're playing. Just like I know a lot of actors that always play themselves. There's nothing you can do about it except, not buy a ticket.
Yeah, Ben Stiller, knock it off.
I was thinking somebody else. But
so
that works.
What about you, Conall? What qualities in role players do you look for at your public table?
Patience.
Okay.
Because let's face it, depending on what the system you're running, a combat, you get maybe 3 turns in the full combat, but that combat is anywhere from a half an hour to an hour. And you're waiting for, unless you're if you're the simple sword swinger, your action is going to take maybe no more than 5 seconds at most. I roll my dice. Here's my numbers. Do I hit? Yes, no. Compared to, I am a grand wizard with my magical book that will take me forever to cast a spell. Dice roll. Tell the DM what it does. He does another dice roll. Now there's a competing dice roll. Now one of the NPCs/PCs might be doing a counterspell, which is another dice roll versus another dice roll. So I say patience. Patience is always a good thing to have installed into new players, because it might be a while before it gets back to you. But when it does get back to you, be kind about it. Don't make the poor schmuck next to you wait as long as you just had to wait because the wizards had to be all wizardry. Time magic is fake. It's not a real thing. So continue with the game. So that's what I have to say, for better or worse.
Okay. Shadow, how do you what qualities and role players do you look for at your table?
A couple things. Mostly well-rounded people who aren't one-trick ponies, but nothing is more enjoyable than enthusiasm. I've said it before tonight. Enthusiasm is infectious, and when you lose enthusiasm, you lose the game.
Oh, I just lost the game.
I'm not sure what game you're talking about, but sorry to hear that.
That's all right.
Ignoring that, moving right along. Ignoring that, moving right along. To our next question, question number 10. We're now at the halfway mark. What got you into role-playing games in the first place? Shadow, I'm going to start with you on this one. What got you into the hobby in the first place?
Oh, wow. I was a 13-year-old kid, and I'd done all the things. I played sports, had action figures, did Legos, did shooting and hunting and other things. And then this thing came along that was unlike everything, but everything all put together as one. I had everything I loved from comic books and movies and other things, and it was all just, here it is in one thing at the table, and you get to do it all with a bunch of friends,
weirdos,
right? And it incorporated everything. When I got my first DMG, I realized that not only did it include fantasy, which I was just learning about for the first time, but lo and behold, it included superheroes and westerns and mutants and monsters and treasure and pretty girls, and it literally had everything all in one nice, neat little package that I could take everywhere with me wherever I went.
Okay. Mar, what got you into role-playing games?
Honestly, the first thing that really got me thinking in that sort of direction was reading Choose Your Own Adventure books. It's like, it's like
Ooh.
after reading Choose Your Own Adventure books, watching movies, I would stop and think about the way the characters made decisions in the movie and be like, okay, so this is the choice they made, but what was the other choice? What would have happened if they'd gone the other way? And just thinking about stuff like that just gave me the interest in the idea of it, even if it's not necessarily actually playing a TTRPG. This was like a full 10 years before I actually played a proper TTRPG.
Okay. Bruce has a question there for you, Mar. Are you talking gaming fantasy or talking about Rose Estates or Rose Estes?
I recognize the name
Sorry.
Rose Estes, but I don't remember what it is.
Pillars of Pentagon. I think that was my first.
Rose Estes, yeah. Sorry. Reading glasses. They're important.
I'm thinking he's asking what specific Choose Your Own Adventures books I was looking at, but I'm really not sure exactly what the question is looking for. Okay. But yeah, Scholastic Book Club sounds like the one. Oh, the ones written specifically for D&D. No, I'm thinking of the non D&D Choose Your Own Adventures ones that I'm pretty sure were written by or published by Scholastic. Like the Tunnel of Time, for example, which, okay, as a story, that one is a lot of random nonsense, but it's memorable simply because of the fact that the randomness is actually a plot point. I don't feel like explaining it more than that. Anyway, though, but like
several of them. Go ahead.
Thanks,
keep going, Mar.
So several of them actually had like very, very TTRPG like plot elements. Like, it's like, oh, you see a fork in the cave, like you go left or you go right. Well, it'll actually have a description of the two. It's like one of them is this dank, dark hole, and the other one you see lights down at the other end of the tunnel, and stuff like that, where you're not making blind choices. You actually have some idea as to which is which. And
okay. What about you, Conall? I think I was there for your first role-playing game. But,
you were. I had a guy come up to me and ask me if I'd be interested in playing RPG game, which happened to be 3.5 at my local community college. I was waiting for my brother to be done with his classes, so I said, sure, why not? Next thing I know, I'm at a vending machine getting a freaking Dr. Pepper, and I make my lifelong best friend who fucking saw that one coming. Poor bastard. And so yeah, that's how I got started. As I said in multiple different streams, I got into the hobby years after you guys did. I was not a typical jock, but I was busy. I was an outside kid. I'm not saying you guys weren't, but that was basically the truth of it. I was an outside kid. So gaming wasn't an option. And so it wasn't until I became a young adult, it's like, hey, this is actually kind of fun. What's more to it? I jokingly said that I was a jock. I was a nerd trapped in a jock's body.
That changed.
Yeah, now I'm a nerd trapped in a fat body.
For me, the first thing that got me into role-playing games was actually I was reading Lord of the Rings. I was in middle school, and I was reading Lord of the Rings, And oh, there you go, poetry. Yeah, Robert Frost. But I was reading Lord of the Rings, and there were other people who were also reading Lord of the Rings alongside me. And there were kids in the class that just were dreading, this book, dreading these books. And I think everyone else was on The Hobbit. I was already into Lord of the Rings at that point, as well as I think maybe two other kids. And when it was posed to me that I could play a character like Aragorn or like Legolas and be in a game where I could make the decisions for that character, that's what hooked me. I was able to go, wait, you mean I can bring the Ranger, I can bring Strider into a game and play that character in a game setting, in a setting where my choices have meanings and consequences. And the game master at the time said, yeah, you can do that. As a matter of fact, I already have the stats for Strider if you want to play that character. Like, I already have it, designed up per Tolkien's book. And I'm like, you're joking, right? He's like, no, if you want to play it. And he handed me the character sheet and explained everything about the character. And I'm like, oh, hell yes. I want to be Strider. Like, who wouldn't? Like, character's badass in the first book. And that's what got me hooked. I was reading, these awesome fantasy novels, and I wanted to play awesome fantasy characters. That was 25 years ago now, and the rest kind of wrote itself. Then the second part of this question is, when did you know you were a serious role player? For me, it was when everything changed. That moment, I'm like, I really need to stop being a murder hobo and pay attention to what's actually going on. That's when I realized I was becoming more serious role player rather than just a role player. Shadow, what about you? When did you realize you were becoming a more serious role player versus role player? You're
early
muted, sir.
on.
There you go.
I had the option to do a lot of different things with my spare time, and none of them could compare. I literally got all of my creative impulses satisfied with this hobby so early on. I honestly, it's been so long, I don't know when and where specifically, because that happens when we've been doing this as long as people like Mac and I have done it. But it was really early on. I was a paid DM at the age of 14, and probably around that time, I guess, because I've been doing it every, almost every spare moment I can.
Okay. Conall, when did you realize you were a more serious role player?
I'll let you know.
Okay. Get back to me on that. Mar, how about you?
When I realized that I was designing characters from an in-universe logic of what would this person do in terms of actually choosing character abilities and not just min-maxing things to which of these attacks does the most damage, and it's just like a different. Yes, I mean, sure, to a certain extent you want to pay attention to getting things done, but there's also this layer where you're not necessarily you're writing a character, not just a set of stats.
Sure. All right, so moving right along to number 11. Provide 3 things you would ask of every new role player at your table. No using Legion of Myths statements. So I don't have Legion of Myths statements, so we're going to ignore that part. So Shadow, what 3 things would you ask of any new player at your table?
God, I want to say something, but I'm just going to type it.
That's dirty. That's
You-
dirty. You're a creepy old man. How dare you, good sir?
I can do it too,
Yeah.
Baron.
Three things I would ask of a player. Is that that's where we're going, right?
Yeah, three things you would ask a player or ask of any new player at your table.
Don't miss a game without a really, really good, excuse. Honesty, and again, enthusiasm.
Okay. Mar, what are three things you would ask of every new player at your table?
I gave you 4.
Well, I mean, just pay attention to the game. I mean, it seems so simple, and yet it's something I've seen people fail at so many times. And like,
Okay.
pay attention to the game and actually like learn how to play the game, because I've also seen that one. Granted, I've also been guilty of that one on a few occasions. However, there's a matter of degree to learn how to play the game as well. It's like not even knowing the basics of how the character creation system works. Like, if you've never played before, that's understandable. So, but anyway, like, and of course, try to be respectful of the time of the other people playing. Don't just like waste their time by going on random diatribes about things that don't matter.
I saw Russ's name before I saw the message, so I wasn't quite sure where that was headed. I'm so glad the internet caught up in time.
Yeah, that is actually a good point, though, is that he's like, if you are a new player and you don't know how something is supposed to work, ask now, because if you make a decision based on lack of understanding, you'll probably regret it later.
Possibly. And Conall, what about you? What three things do you ask of every new player at your table?
Have a good attitude, because not every night's going to be your night. Be patient, because once again, there's more than just one person at the table. If you want solo play, then go home and play with yourself. Wow, I did not mean that one to go the way it sounded the way it did.
How did you not?
I really wasn't that time around.
To be honest, it does actually logically make sense with multiple different possible readings.
I mean, anyways,
multiple ways to read that one.
3, be kind. Be kind. It's not hard. It's something we're all taught how to do when we're children. Yes, I know I look like Pluto. Son of a bitch.
Pluto.
That too.
Pluto is a completely different character.
But no, kindness. Just being kind. I mean, please and thank you is one of the most powerful words that we have in our vocabulary, and I don't hear them being used enough. I'm not saying beg somebody for something, but if somebody has something that you want to see, can I please see that? Thank you for letting me see that. That's all I ask. Kindness, attitude, and
a nice rack.
No, pizza money. Pizza money.
Yeah.
But no.
So for me, I'd say the three things I look for in a new player, that I would ask of a new player, is be attentive, know what's going on at the game. If you don't understand something or need clarification, please ask. I will give you whatever information you need to be able to succeed. I'm not here to set you up for failure. And third is be respectful. I think we all kind of said the same things there, but I ask for your respect as a player to game master, because I'm going to be rolling my dice out in front of you. I'm not going to hide my dice rolls. I'm done with that. That's nonsense. I'm When I roll dice, you'll see it. Don't worry about it. And respect your fellow players and give them a moment to shine. Like, not every moment is going to be about just you. So I will try to put you in the spotlight. Don't worry about it. I will move the camera as it needs to move. And even if you're new to role playing and you're still kind of shy about actually acting out as the character and speaking for the character, that's fine. Speak in the third person if you absolutely have to. Speak, from a point of, well, I think my character would do this. Yeah, go for it. Try it. Ask questions. Experiment. Do things. I will let you know if you succeed or fail or need to roll a die. Don't worry about that. Now, 3 things you would bring to every new table. I'm going to start with you, Cigar. What 3 things would you bring to a new table beyond the basics? So beyond pencil, dice, books.
Pizza money. Bribe the DM, go up a level. No money. I mean, I know that sounds dumb, but pizza money. Or soda money, because I find parties that eat together normally stay together. I know that sounds weird, but it's kind of been proven. People break bread together, often more likely to continue hanging out with each other. So that's one. Outside paper, pencil, dice, extra set of dice for somebody who does not have their own dice. I'm not going to say that with pencil or paper, but extra set of dice to bring out a game doesn't hurt anybody. Plus, the dice that you're mainly using might be rolling like Jaide does, and you need to pitch them across the room like Bruce does. And bring yourself. Not what people want to see, not what you think people want to see. Yourself. Bring yourself to the table. Go there knowing that you're most likely going to have a good time. Things might not go your way, but realize that it's not always about you, but I want you to be you at the table. Earlier, we were talking about the characters kind of mirroring other people's, the person's personality. I'm an asshole. Therefore, most of my characters are asshole, but at least I'm somewhat good-spirited about it. So keep that in mind.
Mar, what about you? What 3 things do you bring to every new table beyond the basics?
Honestly, I would consider like dice and paper basics, so not that stuff. But new stuff for the people to experience. It says, it's like, oh, you know what the dragon is? Okay, that's nice. But what about this one that has like so some sort of weird gold stuff all over its things? What could that possibly mean? Honestly, it's like custom creatures are actually something I personally think is a great idea for GMs to make up. It's like you have the bestiary. You don't need to just throw out what's already in there. You can make up new things. So the players actually experience something they haven't heard of before. Most people like that. Okay, that's entry 1, I suppose. I mean, just trying to present a story that the players will find interesting. I can't think of a 3 off the top of my head. At least it's not something that hasn't already been said, anyways.
Can I change my answer to toilet paper? Because Lady is right. Bring toilet paper, you nasty ass bastards.
What about you, Shadow? What 3 things do you bring to every new table?
Well, number 1 is if since this is usually a male-dominated game. If there's a lady of the house, you bring her flowers or maybe something nice to put up with our dumb, smelly asses. 2, as opposed to there's some things I will be leaving at the door. Your baggage, and as you walk in that door, wipe your feet. This is my house, not your house. Otherwise, everything I think everybody said is good.
Okay. 3 things I bring to any new table. Open mind. Come with an open mind. Things are not going to go the way you expect them to go at first. So be ready to change ideas and thought processes. Yes, I know that might go against what I said earlier about being stymied as a player, but I tried to keep an open mind, and as I got stymied, I just said, nope, not interested. So open mind. Second thing I would bring to a table is my creativity, my imagination, my ability to work within the game master's setting to try to make a character that not only fits the setting, fits me, and also fits the group. And I'm going to try to imagine up the character as the other players are also creating their characters. So bring a good imagination. And the other thing I bring that I would like to see people bring is not their phones. Leave your phone in the car. Leave your distracting device elsewhere. Don't bring it with you. Sure. In some neighborhoods around where I live, I wouldn't leave a device in the car. But put it in a locker, put it in your bag. Don't touch it for the rest of the night. Bring your attentiveness. Be in the moment. Be in the character. Be in the group. Bring your attentiveness. So now I'm going to ask this one only of Shadow, because he's had the most years in the hobby. What do you imagine role-playing games will be like in 10 years from now, or even 20, or even possibly 50? You've had the most time in the hobby as compared to all of us. What do you think it'll be like in 10 years from now?
Well, provided there is a 10 years from now. Honestly, either a massive resurgence of back at the table, in-person live gaming, like it used to be, because things go in cycles, and we're ending one and potentially entering another, and at some point, like superhero movies, they disappeared for a while, then they came back, they turned to crap, and now they're disappearing again, or maybe not. Right now, the hobby is at a precipice, but at some point, if it's even allowed, I hope to see a resurgence where all of our old books are actually used, and people are actually playing in person and doing that sort of thing, or it's going to go full internet, digital, that sort of thing, and you'll never know who you're actually playing with. You'll literally be playing with anybody but the people in your immediate actual life.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Okay.
I see more of the last option than I see the other options. I mean,
you'll be there. You'll be there. Let Jackie, know I was right or wrong.
I mean, Jade, I know it's taking time, but if you can just hurry up and make that holodeck, then we could just live out these characters.
Oh man, to have the Star Trek holodeck as a gaming a method, ooh, that'd be interesting.
I mean, I know how certain people that we both know would use the holodeck, but I'm talking more for the fan. Well, I'm talking more for the hobby, not just for your fantasies.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, that's what VTTs are for. It's just that VTTs they have a lot of limitations.
Too many limitations currently. But let's move on to question number 14 out of 21. When do you think is a good time to close an existing game down and perhaps begin a new one? Mar, when do you think is a good time to close an existing game and potentially start up a new one?
I mean, if the players lose interest, that's a big one. It's just like, oh, do you feel like playing this again next week? No. Okay, do we want to make new characters and start a new campaign completely? Yeah, sure, we'll do that. Or, maybe the new campaign is a different game because, that's also a thing that can happen. And another one, of course, is, if your game has 5 players and 3 of them are just not going to be here, maybe possibly wait for them to come back if they ever come back. If not, do a different game. Maybe with different people.
Sorry, guys.
Ooh, okay.
Down the
What about
highway.
you? What about you there, Conall? When do you think it's a good time to bring a game to a close and begin anew?
Well, benefits. Some of the benefits of running a module is once you get to the last page, it is the last page. You don't have to string on 5 more hours of RP/combat to have it all wrapped into some nice little bow. It kind of works itself out one way or the other. I'm not saying modules are always the best answers, but they do kind of wrap themselves up quite nicely sometimes. But as MarHawkman said, sometimes people just lose interest in the campaign. You can always say, "Hey, DM, can I try out a different type of character? I think this guy has got his miles in. I'd like to trade up for a different model." But that's not the end of the game. Sometimes you have to look at the game the same way. This storyline is going about as far as it could. I don't want to do a Fonzie and jump the proverbial shark. And when you get to that point, we don't need 9 more seasons of a campaign. It's done. Let it be. So when you feel like you're about ready to jump the shark for your campaign to continue running, it's a good time to pull the plug. Some games naturally just round up ending. You don't mean them to end. You don't want them to end. Hey, Jade, how's that World War I fantasy campaign we were playing down in Peoria in my basement? How did that one end? Oh, wait, everybody moved.
Yeah, everybody moved away.
Sometimes life ends the game for you. You don't want it to, but it just does. So when is a good time to end a game? I don't think there's ever a bad time to end a game, but sometimes
Night 1.
What?
Night 1.
Night 1. Yeah,
That's
night
a
1.
really bad time.
Depends on the people you're gaming with.
Sure.
I don't think there is a bad time, but sometimes the right time is just up to you and your party. Like I said, sometimes the campaign has gone its route. And
Sure.
Your turn. Tag. You can be the DM now since you know all the damn rules, right?
Okay. So this is going to be more lightning round-ish. I'm going to ask everybody just one of these questions.
Okay.
So Conall, I'm going to start with you.
What was that?
Yep,
Shaz?
got to get moving. We got.
Okay, I'll put it in
Go
chat.
ahead.
I'll put it in chat.
No. What do you have?
Never.
What do you got?
Never. I've been running the same
Never a
campaign
good time?
for 40-something years. Players may come and
Okay.
go, but my universe keeps on spinning.
I mean, if you're looking at it like that, I've been running the same game world for over 25 years, just different eras in it.
Yeah, I need to get back to that
So-
world. I guess I'm going to recover.
So, number 15, this one's going to be specifically for Conall. If you could turn any 3 movies into RPG games with systems specific to them that are not already in existence, which 3 would you pick?
Boondock Saints
Ooh.
with Palladium.
Okay, into a Palladium-like game. Okay.
Yeah. Or a Shadowrun for Boondock Saints. Another movie. Let's see. Doesn't count as
You've seen a lot.
I know. Boondock Saints. I would want to do Time Cop. The Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, also using Palladium, and shit that already has a system behind it. You know what? Screw it. I want to say, you said movies. I'm going to switch over to TV show really quick. I want to use Dresden Files for anything that's not the fucking Fate system.
Okay, so something other than fate. Got it. This next one is going to go to Mar. What makes a good story to you, and what works for a game, and what doesn't?
There's a whole lot of different things that go into stories, and well, one of the biggest ones though is that you need to have the world that the story is in change as the story progresses. It's like, you go to a castle, you meet the people in the castle. It's like, okay, are they going to be exactly the same next time you come back? That probably not exactly the same, because they'll remember that you were there previously and stuff. And
Sure.
to me, that's an essential component of the story. It's like you go places, you do things. Then when you come back to those places, that you see the effects of what you did when you were there the first time. It's not just, there's no magic reset button to erase everything. But
Okay.
like
so things. So the ability for the story to change is important to you.
I mean, because it's actually something that I've seen people discuss in the context of comic books. It's just like having a sense that time has progressed, that you've gone from point A to point B. And it's not like that weird thing where it's like at the end of every episode, things are suddenly somehow exactly the same as they were at the beginning of the episode. That's the opposite of, is that it's like, it's not a progression of the story, it's stagnation. And I personally find the stagnation thing is just anathema in terms of role-playing games, because it's like, if you have a magic reset button where everything goes back to the way it was before you started, you didn't accomplish anything.
Good answer. I like that. This one's going to be you, Shadow. If there were 3 things you could change about today's gaming industry, what would they be?
That's a loaded question, especially with Tim.
Or you could each give me one thing you would change.
No,
I'm okay with that too, if you want to just name one.
No.
You're muted, sir, I think. Yep, you're muted.
Wow. Certain attitudes that just have no place in a free society. No company is going to tell me what to do with their product. I'm going to do whatever I want with it. Sorry. Yeah, Mac. The idea that we are not welcoming to the hobby, and I think you all know what I mean by we. Those of us who've been at it a decent amount of time have never turned anybody down to a game unless they brought some sort of grievous amounts of baggage, and try to dictate how we play a game we've invited you to, that being whoever it is. We are some of the most welcoming individuals in any pastime or hobby out there. That whole notion that we're not is just insidiously evil, and I won't tolerate it now, and I wish more people would get that. Go play a game with some different folks, and you'll find out. There was a time when back in the early days of the hobby, we were ostracized just for playing the game, and now it's turned into,
and now we're being ostracized from it.
Right. We didn't judge you by the way you looked or any of those things that we're accused of doing. It's like, what, you want to play? Come on down. You're the next contestant. And the third thing would be that the idea that the next new shiny is the best new shiny. Do your research and look into the classics before you try to promote the next new shiny. I see so many YouTubers out there that will glom onto whatever comes down the pike for the views, etc. There's a whole lot of new things that came out that are just other games, serial numbers filed off. Go read the original and see if it needed to be rewritten and reformatted before you start spouting that this is better than that. There's the hobby wouldn't have gotten to where it is without the earliest of editions of various games and genres of games. There wouldn't be this hobby if they weren't fantastic. Maybe there's some things about it because it was written in a certain era that that's all they had. The art wasn't always the best, things like that. But you know what? I never bought a RPG because of the art. I bought it because of other things. The art helps, but the actual words, that's what we need to focus on. There have been some RPGs out there that had virtually no art in them whatsoever, and they were awesome.
Okay. Let's see here. This one's going to be from Mar. If you could have anyone from the gaming industry on, and this says with Legion of Myth, I'm going to say on Gatekeepers, to participate in one of these topics. If you could have anyone in the gaming industry on Gatekeepers to participate in a topic, who would it be?
I've talked to Max Liao about this one. It's one that I personally doubt would actually be willing to do it. But more in the I'm busy kind of thing, not so much that he doesn't like the idea. Gecko.
Okay.
Well, Gecko is the a screen name used by one of the developers for Star Trek Online, and one of the people who used to work on the Fallout franchise before it was purchased by, I forget what company owns it now. Because he was like someone who worked on Fallout 1 and 2, and then he started working for Cryptic Studios and has been working on various Cryptic Studios things since then. I mean, obviously, he's someone who does computer games as a job, but he apparently had TTRPGs as a hobby before he started doing computer games as a job. And as a computer game developer, he was actually one of those people who like to have multiple ways to do things. So, and not just walk into room, kill 5 bad guys, pick up loot, walk into next room. He tried to make things more nuanced and interactive than that.
I'll keep that in mind, Fleety. I don't know if Kevin over at Palladium watches our stuff or not. I'd be honored if he did.
Go through Max.
So this one's going to be to Conall. Now you can't say the Dresden Files. You can't say. Anyway, you'll know what when I say it. What book series, modern or not, do you think would make for a great game? And you can't say Stormlight Archive either. You can't play the player. You can't play the player on this one because that RPG. I can actually announce it now that I was an alpha tester for it. That RPG system is coming.
That's awesome. Damn it, that was actually, I was just thinking that one. What novel system? Oh god, they made a horrible movie about it. The Aragon.
Aragon series? Okay.
The Aragon series is about dragons. It's high fantasy.
Wasn't that written by like a 15-year-old kid?
At the time, yeah, he's a grown-up now.
Okay, one thing I feel the need to point out is that you could probably homebrew Merp to do Aragon.
I'm just saying.
Oh, probably.
He said book series, and I wasn't allowed to use Dresden, so the Aragon would be one. I don't think there's an RP system too. I would say Game of Thrones, but I'm sure there's an RP system already out there for that. If there's not, really, somebody should lose their
There's definitely a
job.
board game.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a board game. I don't know if there's an RPG game though. But no, I think the Aragon series would actually be a fun RPG system to throw whatever fucking 5e. I don't care. Just throw something engine in it to make it work. I think the storyline would be fun to play.
Awesome. Shadow, this question is going to be to you. You wanted this question. I've got it for you. What real life skills do you think aid in gaming, and why?
Oh, you know the answer to this one. Prepping and survival. You're playing survivalists. You're playing permanent campers and hobos and vagabonds. Know the tools of the trade, the tricks of the trade. Not only will it make you a better gamer because you'll know what it feels like to do these things, you'll know how long it takes, you'll know what it takes to do these things, and guess what? You can actually use it in real life should stuff ever hit the fan. Your car breaks down or the grid goes down, you'll be ready for anything. It'll make you a more diverse, well-rounded, independent individual. You won't need to call AAA. You'll get out, you'll fix the tire yourself. You'll, make a lean-to because it's raining. You'll know how to start a fire. You'll know where to get some food. All those things, crucial. Everybody should do it. If you've ever been camping, you know a little bit about what the average D&D character does and does every single day. And if you don't, you're kind of just playing blind, in my opinion.
I kind of want to bring up SCA, Daghir, Belgarth. I'll leave Amp Guard alone because Amp Guard is a bunch of sissy boys. But no, go play SCA. Go play SCA.
Yeah. You take your bow. I'm going to take my AR. We'll see who.
I win in the long run. I can make my own ammo. Can you say the same?
You kind of. Yeah. I can reload.
Kinda.
And reload is not the same as making it.
If I'm using my AR, I'm using it on things that have bullets. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's never going to be a shortage of bullets.
Well, there will be too, but that's a whole different conversation for somebody else's show.
I don't want to live in a world where 1 trillion bullets have been fired.
You already kind of have.
And then the follow-up question to that first one there, Shadow, is when do real-life skills get in the way of a good game?
When you're playing the bookish wizard and suddenly all of these skills, you've got to know where to cut off your knowledge. I think that's why certain games are actually easier for some people, even though those genres are the least popular, because you get to use everything you already know and you don't have to push that stuff off to the side because you don't know modern skills and equivalents. You need to know kind of where to separate yourself from the character and play the character, but I guess it all depends on what game you're playing.
Sure thing.
Play more sci-fi. Play more modern.
Yes. And I'm going to be selfish on this last question, as it is the end of the night and the end of the last question indeed. What do you think is the best to do when you lack inspiration for new stories? Where do you come up by your ideas? Well, to answer Purr, the person who actually gave us all of these questions for the evening, when I am lacking for inspiration, I go to a library. I go pick up fantasy novels at a library. I go to, if you don't have a library close to you, go read in a cafe at a like a bookstore. Peruse your local bookstores. Get ideas from the backs of the book. Read the synopsis of a book. See if it generates ideas for you. You don't have to read the whole book necessarily. You just have to get ideas, right? So go steal from literature. If you're really into anime or TV or movies, come up with concepts based on some of that. Let your inspiration guide you based on your interests. If you're really into a thing, explore it further, take notes, and figure out if there's things you can do with it beyond what has already been done. You are surrounded by a world of ideas from other creators. Other creators have made things. It's out there and it's available to you. The internet is a wide range of things. I got interested in Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere through, audiobooks. And yeah, as much as I would love to play, and I have played in the alpha test, actually ran the alpha test for Stormlight Archive, there is so much more that can be done with that setting. In any game engine. I personally thought of, when I was first thinking about it a couple of years ago, was it would be perfect in the White Wolf Exalted series of games, because it lends itself to that power curve very well. So play more games. Play new games that you've never played before. Play Palladium, play GURPS, play play Fate, play Arduin, play any game that you can learn and get into, and get inspired by anything that you enjoy, and find others who also enjoy your passions, and play games, come up with concepts, and most of all, have fun with it.
Oh, hey, the guy on my stream asked a question. It's interesting. How do you guys feel about using ChatGPT AI to allow you to expand story idea seeds? I guess you feed the AI a seed and let it do things with it.
Do you want to ask that to a specific person or to the group as a whole?
Well, he just said they, so I guess everyone.
Oh, okay. Who wants to field that one first? AI generation
never in a million years. Never in a million years. Next.
Conall?
It's a tool. It's like everything else. It's a tool. Do I mind it? Not particularly. I don't think it should be the overall driver of said ship. But if you have a hiccup that you can't see yourself around, if it's a homebrew game, why not use it as a tool? It's, you use a wrench to fix a car. Why won't you use a chat AI, whatever the hell it's called, to help you with some word salad?
Yeah, my personal thought on it is that don't trust it to give you something good. Like having it make a rough outline and then like tweaking it to make it, reasonably good is probably as far as I would go with it.
Okay. As far as me and ChatGPT or any AI generative material, I don't have a problem using ChatGPT or generative AI as a tool. However, it is not going to write my campaigns. My players are going to write my campaigns. My idea is going to come from literature or from some kind of media, maybe even born out of my own thoughts that are a conglomeration of things I've experienced. Will I ask it, to come up with monsters for a session? Maybe. I doubt it. Because again, this up here is so powerful. And the more you use your own mind, the more powerful it becomes, the more you can do with it. They often say, I know it's just a saying that the brain is a muscle, and the more you flex it, the more you gain. I know it's fatty tissue, but it's kind of correct in a way. The more you use your brain, the more you can do with it, the more ways you can think with it. So would I use AI if I am really and truly honest to God stuck on something? I might consider it. But man, that does not happen often for me.
Well,
when I'm in a groove, I'm in a groove, and I might become stuck for a few months on an idea, but I'm working on other ideas while that idea is cooking away in the brain pan.
I have to say, there was an episode of Gatekeepers. I was having issues coming up with questions. I went over there to that forbidden site. I typed in, what kind of questions would you ask for this topic? And oh my God, everybody on the panel enjoyed it.
Don't
get me wrong.
Going back to question 21, though, so I've been doing for several weeks a series of videos talking about individual episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation and what you could do with the various plot elements of that episode in a TTRPG. I mean, looking at episodes of old TV shows, you can absolutely get ideas from those for TTRPGs.
Just don't watch it until Worf grows out his hair. That's my only,
Well, my number one thing is don't play it straight. Don't copy the episode. It's like take two different episodes and mix them together and create something that's not exactly the same as either of the original.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ChatGPT and other generative AIs have their uses. In RPGs, I don't believe so, especially when it comes to writing or coming up with your session for the evening. If you really need a tool, and I've used these tools before. If you really need a tool to come up with something for a session, grab a deck of playing cards. Assign a value or assign a thing to each number and face card, and then assign something to each suit. For example, spades is always deadly or death related. It's always something deadly.
I mean,
and each face card means something, something else. Lay out a spread of 3 of them. You've just created a monster. And interpret those cards as your monster. If you really need something to a tool to help you,
I've seen some actual
flashcards,
like legit tools that are like ways to like randomly generate using table and dice the basic framework of an adventure.
Hey guys, I got to bounce. I'm late for a radio appointment.
Yep. All right.
Good show, guys. I will talk to you ASAP.
Well,
because I love the
that is going to be the end of our show. So
take care, guys.
Yep. You have a good night, sir. Well, that is the end of our show. I know we ran late, and I appreciate all of you for stopping by the tavern and joining us on this this omnibus episode of a show. Now, I don't want to do more than one omnibus in a year, and that's why I've kind of been pushing this off for the last 3-4 months, because these questions were I think generated back in August, maybe September. And I don't want to do more than one of these in a year if I can help it. However, at the end of the year, I do plan on doing an Ask Me Anything Gaming. So any questions you in the audience have that is anything game related, I want to hear it. You can either put it into our suggestions on our Discord. You can actually join our Discord in the link to our Discord below in the comments section or in the video description. So I wanted to do basically kind of another quasi omnibus, but it's an Ask Me Anything Gaming. And we'll have a panel of game masters. Might even be able to get Max on. I'm not sure. And you can ask us anything that's game related. So that will be the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed the talk, with us, going over these questions. If you haven't already done so, please consider hitting that subscribe button, as it really helps the channels grow. If you really enjoyed tonight, hit that like button. Let us know how we did. And I wish all of you and yours a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next week with a new topic. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.